Yo guys, welcome back to the Custom Shop channel. Today we are featuring my buddy Matt and his 1986 Volkswagen MK2 GTi with a supercharged VR6. Yeah, Matt, so I just wanted to say thank you for joining us. Cool thing is, me and Matt, both in common, we own Volkswagen MK2 GTIs, and they're both powered by VR6 motors, so pretty kick-ass car. Matt, I know you've owned your car for quite a long time. Why don't you let us know, the year you bought your car, how long you've owned it, and how you were able to get this car?
19, it was like about late 95. And I saw the car sitting where it was. Maybe like a year. I looked at that like every couple of days. And my friend went behind my back and he put a number on the dashboard and said, I want to buy this car. The next day, car was gone.
Your boy put the...
He put like, he wrote like, my
like
friend
for
wants
you?
to,
like, my boy wants this car?
Buy your car.
Nice.
Well, I don't even think he said my friend. He just said, I want to buy your car, and he put my number.
Where was it though? Where was the car?
It was sitting in the Lower East Side in Smith Projects.
Nice, 1995.
It was about 1995. It was right towards the end of 95. And then, one day it was gone. I remember, I was like, what the hell happened to the car? My friend didn't even tell me he did that. And then, like, a couple of months went by. This kid calls out of nowhere. He's like, yo, you want to buy the car? I was like, what car?
Yeah, who are you?
He's like, the Volkswagen. I was like, yeah? He's like, yo, the GTi, so what happened to it? He said it's in Brooklyn. Just about to turn it to automatic. I was like, no, stop, stop. I was like, yo, I'll meet you there. Give me a little while.
Nice.
And then
you went and picked it up?
I went out there.
Nice.
As a matter of fact, the car was a disaster. There was wires everywhere. I kind of was a little turned off. He had another Volkswagen. He said, let's go look at that one. I went to look at that one. Basically, bottom line, I ended up buying both of them.
Nice.
And
what did you give him like a package deal thing? Yo, I'll throw you this bread.
Yeah.
Give me both of them.
I actually offered him $2,800 cash.
Nice.
And he was like, take them both.
That's pretty good in 1995 because that car was only like 10 years old, dude.
It was about 96 now.
Okay.
It was just hitting 96 now. And, I had the two Volkswagens and it started.
The last year for that car is a 92. So if you bought it in 96, that's like a fairly newer car. Now it was on the third generation at that point, but it's still a new car, for that time. So to get two of them for $2,800 is fucking awesome, Why'd you buy two? Just so you had parts, to back up the other one?
He showed me this 1985 GTi, which actually was really fast. He did some stuff to it, and we're not thinking. I had some cash on me. I was like, you know what? I'll take them both.
Nice.
But this car right here was,
and this was the first one. This was the original one you found on the street, or this was the second one that he had?
This was the one that was sitting in the parking lot.
Nice, bro. That's cool.
He was about to turn it automatic, and then I had to put a stop to it.
And that was it.
And then that was it.
Oh, kick ass, man. Now I know you are a Volkswagen lover, and I know you've had other Volkswagens prior to that. I know even in your family, your brother, you guys are really, really big VW heads, and that's pretty much how I met you, through the community, which was great. Tell us about the other Volkswagens that you had maybe prior to the MK2.
And the list goes on from Rabbit GTi convertibles to a couple of different MK3 Jettas, Cabrios. I mean, forget it. We had Corrados. The list goes on. The headaches between my parents and all the car parts. And you know, I think I even just told you recently how the parts that we probably got rid of over the years.
Because the platform is tough now, dude. You have to, like, if you have these parts now, they're worth a lot because it's just everything's so rare right now. So if you try to find half these parts now, it's very, very difficult, and people want like a really high premium for them. Most people don't sell them. They just hoard them because they want to be able to enjoy their MK2s for years to come. They don't want to get rid of their parts.
Volky dismantles. Tito doesn't sell any MK2 parts. He's a hoarder.
That's the dude, right?
Yeah,
Volky dismantles, man. They're famous for their parts, man. But this dude has an MK2, and I'm sure he has some of the best parts, man. So that's dope. Nice.
But, you guys also did a nice piece in the car as well.
Yeah, we did some audio for Matt. We did some cosmetic work to get him going, which was really cool. But you've had that car for quite a long time. I know you resprayed it in 1998.
It actually got resprayed in 99. Motor
99.
was put in about 97. It hit the paint shop in 99.
Nice. Now, did you swap the motor purely for fun, or you had an issue with the 8-valve motor? So for anybody who's watching, these Volkswagen MK2s, the GTIs, they pretty much came in two trims. They came in an 8-valve trim and they came in a 16-valve trim. So the 8-valve trim is a little more common. You basically got the motor from the normal Golf, but you pretty much got the trim of the GTI. So maybe suspension, the way the body looked, you know, you got really nice seats, sports seats, you got the red trim. But really the 16-valve was the holy grail model. The 16-valve was a larger motor, had 16 valves instead of 8 valves. It was a 2.0.
Also had the G60.
It had the G60, correct. So we had a supercharged version, which was really cool too, which is very rare. So the 16 valves are cool because everybody wanted them for the Recaro seats, and they had great options, right?
Definitely.
So it was a really, really cool car. So Matt and I both had 8-valve GTIs. So there's a lot of purists who are always like, oh, it's a 16 valve, like don't swap it, keep it original, which is like the one that you see here, which is great. But we had GTIs that were kind of just Golfs, and like, you know, at the time, I'm sure in your time, the VR swap was fairly new when you got this. So like, that's cutting edge stuff,
That's how it started, like you just said before. You know, like what, you know, like how would you go to change the motor? When I first bought the car and I got it running, I mean, it's a Volkswagen. You know, they're light cars, they're fast. You know, even the little 1.8s, 1.6s.
Yeah, for the time, they were really sporty cars. Absolutely.
Boogie. And you know, I did everything to the car that you could do at that point, other than like a turbo, a supercharged nitrous.
Got it.
Headers, I mean, everything. Did the works. I used to brag about the car. So, my friend one day threw me the keys to a 92 GTI with a VR. That was it.
Nice.
History. Next day, I was already, let me get the motor, and we started from there.
That's sick, man. The VR6, for anybody who's watching who doesn't really know about the VR6 motor, it's a 6-cylinder engine from Volkswagen. They had a model called the Corrado, and the Corrado originally was a 4-cylinder. They even offered a supercharged version. But when the BMW E36 and I think the Porsche 944 dropped, Volkswagen had to compete with these faster cars. So they needed to design a motor that was more powerful that would fit in a 4-cylinder engine bay. So they designed the VR6, which was a 6-cylinder inline. So it's actually pretty cool how they designed it to fit inside the engine bay. So the cylinders are kind of at a staggered angle, but they're so close in degree that they actually share one head. So the sound and the way it feels is super smooth like an inline, but it's still able to fit in small places. So they dropped that into the Corrado. Nice thing with the Corrado is the chassis is shared with the Mark II Volkswagen. So it's very easy to do that swap over. So like if you needed power, you know, the VR6 was kind of a natural swap over to the Mark II. So that's why it's something that people gravitate towards. And the sound is awesome, the torque is awesome. And it's just cool to have a 6-cylinder inside a small car. It's kind of having like an older school, like German muscle car, so to speak, right? Because there's a lot of torque.
And anybody that knows Volkswagen, they know that VR sound.
It's
when
great.
You hear it, you know, you're always like, it's a VR, right?
Absolutely.
I know it.
Now, sure, the VR6 is, it gets a bad rap sometimes because they're heavy. They say it throws the balance off in the car. I think if you tune the suspension and you drive it the right way, you know, it's still a really formidable car. But I'm definitely not hating on the 16-valve turbos and 16-valve builds. I mean, they're phenomenal. The car's really lightweight. But I think the VR way is just fucking awesome, dude, you know?
I mean, when I hate on any of it, the 1.8.
No, it's great.
You know,
yeah, they're all
like
good.
Like I said, I used to brag about it. You know, I loved it. It was, you know, but until I actually drove a 6-cylinder in that particular car, forget it.
It's badass, man. So your Golf has the VR6. What version VR6 is it? Because there is kind of 3 displacements for this motor. Which one do you have?
Well, my motor came from a 1997
Gotcha.
GTi.
Nice, which would be a Mark III.
Yep, that's
so the next
correct.
generation.
And you know, the VRs alone, anybody, you know, they know Volkswagens. It's a strong motor.
Absolutely.
And, you know, like you said also, they're pretty well maintained and built. If you know, make sure that you're checking your fluids and you're not, you know, destroying it.
They're strong motors. They're easy to work on.
You know, like I said, you know, mine's been in the car since, you know, 97 or so.
So then it has to be a 2.8 then probably, right? The one that you have in there.
Mine was a 2.8 originally, 12 valve straight, and then, you know, we started, you know.
Nice, man.
Went a little crazy, but
exactly.
No
so I know your Volkswagen GTi. It's not stock. Obviously, you have the motor swap. But what other mods do you have? You know, in excess. You know, and what other mods do you have on that car other than obviously the swap?
Well, obviously, next to the motor, the main feature, or even before the swap, is the supercharger.
Nice.
And you know, plenty others add on to that between the headers, the car's chipped, exhaust. You know, we did a couple of little special features in the motor department, but the supercharger alone right there.
Nice.
You know.
That's awesome, dude. Now, normally, like, these cars, like, make anywhere from, what, maybe 180 to 200 horsepower, you know, to the wheels. What do you know how much the supercharger kind of adds to it, or no?
Mine is 285.
Damn, yo.
To the wheel.
That's a lot of power.
You know, and it's funny because the day that I went to get it all dynoed and everything, there was a bunch of muscle cars, and, you know, we're talking from 700 to 800 horsepower. These guys are going, and my little Volkswagen comes in, and it's at like 280, but all the muscle car guys were like, damn!
That's pretty good.
You know, because they know it's a light car, so, you know, 280 is not much, but, you know, you consider the lightweightness of the car and forget it.
It's a super lightweight car. I think, like, they're a little over 2,000 pounds, maybe, right out the gate. Mine's stripped down pretty much, so I don't have the back seats or anything in it, so it's pretty lightweight. Yours is just that way. So I know definitely we're saving some weight there. And with that motor, man, they move. It's a really, really nice car. I love the design. I love the boxiness of it. I just think it was just a really, really cool car, man. You know, it's so cool to own an MK2, dude. When you cruise it and, like, you know, people see it, or like you pull up somewhere and they're like, yo, I used to have this car, or like my boy had this car in high school, or even like, you know, even out here in Astoria, a lot of Europeans out here, and they always like, you know, when I see them and stuff, like people, they'll be like, yo, I had this car back in my country, you know, super cool. So, you know, it's just, it's nice to have like a world car. It's nice to have a car that is international. You know, some cars only make it to certain countries, but, you know, wherever you go, you know, especially in Europe, you might see another MK2 there, which is really cool, you know. And they're popular, dude, still. Like, in Europe, people are still rocking them out, dude. You don't see them here, especially in New York, really that much at all. But, you know, I don't know how many really made it to 2020, but, you know, in Europe, they're still widely used, which is really cool.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
They, you know, like, they go through their phases. When I first started with it, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't too crazy, you know. Like, I remember going to the first Waterfest, to the second Waterfest, you know, and you could see, you know, it starts getting crazy. And, you know, obviously you see how Waterfest is now with the Volkswagen, so
it's
nuts.
Not just, Waterfest is
you
sick.
know, we particularly breed MK2s, but we bleed blue. We bleed blue.
That's
we bleed all
Volkswagens.
Volkswagens.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, but, Volkswagen, it's a phenomenal brand, dude. It's great, great community, man. The shows are great. The nice thing is, too, like, there's such a history, dude. Like, you can go to these shows and, like, you know, you'll see people with fucking, like, 60s Beetles and 50s cars, Carmen Gias, stuff like that. And then, you know, they'll kick it with, like, a dude with, like, a 2018 GTi and, like, still kind of, like, feel that love for the brand, you know?
With the Volkswagen particular community. So we're talking, now we're going to the 80s. And I'm cutting school, and I go to these old-timers' houses, and these old guys are strictly Volkswagen heads and crates of, like, hot VW magazine, the old school. So we would just sit there from school looking at all these magazines, and I was like, yo, these guys are mad cool, Volkswagen, you know what?
That's dope.
And then when I got the Volkswagen, I mean, I can recall many times driving by somebody, just like they go one way, I go the other, and we almost stop, you back up, and you're like, yo, I love the car. You know, we're smoking, talking, next thing you know, that's it. And then, you know.
Then you make a friend.
Yeah, that was it. You know, there was no meets back then. I started all the meets back then.
That's it, man.
I had like 4 or 5 Volkswagens just between me and my girl. So.
And would you guys just meet up and like?
I started running into people like that and getting their phone numbers. I was like, you know, we should all have like a Volkswagen meet.
Yeah.
And the only meets in Long Island at that particular time was the Belmore Friday nights. You know, back then, it was really just all muscle cars.
Okay.
Friday nights was like muscle cars in Belmore. So I used to be like, you know what, let's go to the train station, opposite side. I think we did like a Thursday night or something, just to try it out. And it was pretty nice.
Nice.
And I met a whole bunch of guys from Queens at that point because they had heard about it and came out. And then that's how it started.
That's fire. How did you guys hear about it? Because there was no Instagram. There was no like texting, like yo, like you know what I mean?
I used to just drive around and run into these guys with Volkswagen.
And just tell them the time and place.
At the time, my girlfriend was my son's mother. We used to write up like little things on paper, like we're trying to meet, you know, Belmore train station, and we would go there by ourselves even. Like I would have like my boy drive one of my, you know, we had like all my Volkswagens, and you know, maybe 2 or 3. We'd started out like 6 cars, 7 cars, and people would drive by even like, yo, you guys are here every Thursday night? We'd be like, yeah.
Nice.
Next thing you know, before you know it, it got pretty nice.
That's awesome, man.
You know, it was always a Honda or 2 that would come and do their little burnout, and then that was the end of that.
And then you had to shut it down.
Yeah, we shut it down.
That's cool though. It's nice to hear about the car culture, you know, pre like Instagram and all the social media. It's just, you know, it's cool how.
You know, you fast forward now, and you know, like back then, I used to be like, I'm not gonna hang out with, you know, like, you know, we were Volkswagen guys, you know, I like Volkswagens. You know, you fast forward now, the car community is huge.
Yeah, it's all different cars.
Multiple cars. You know, I'm a Volkswagen guy, yes, no doubt, but any car. I mean, I see any car, Subaru, Ford. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're into your car. I like it. That's it. You know, everybody. You know, that's the good thing about nowadays.
I think so.
Car community.
Yeah, it seems to be a lot of love, which is really cool. You know, there's always some negativity here and there, but I think like for the most part, people are really trying in the car community to say, you know what, like this is a unified thing. You know what I mean? Which I think is great because there's so many fucking cool cars out there, dude.
There is definitely.
You know, if you're focused on one brand all the time and you got your head in one thing, like, you know, you're missing out. You know, to really love cars and to love automobiles and to love that, I think, you know, it's important to really accept all these brands and just understand like what each does and their specialties, you know. I think Volkswagen is a phenomenal brand. But yeah, dude, so your VR6, your supercharged, what do you have, coilovers? I know you have a really rare grill on there.
I got coilovers.
The paint job, dude, you're not painted, like everything color matched.
Car was painted in
That's some cool shit, dude.
1999, Merrick Collision, Long Island.
Wow.
Obviously, you can see how many years, almost 21 years later, the car still, you know, has
stood the test of time.
You know, 21 years, you know. We're not talking $2,000-$3,000 paint jobs.
Yeah, dude. I feel like those $2,000-$3,000 paint jobs, like,
I got them. I got plenty of pictures to prove. Paint jobs. I went through.
You got to do it right.
When I bought the car, I went through 3 paint jobs before
you really got it right the right way.
Yeah, so.
Dude, and this is tough too because you have all the bumpers painted, you have the fenders painted. All that shit comes like textured black. Like if you see this or even my car.
Sanding.
You know, you have to sand that down because that almost has like it's a textured like material to it. It's dimpled. So like it's not gonna hold paint like a normal panel would. So like that's pretty impressive and it stayed that way, you know? It's pretty cool.
That's why,
you know, you really don't see a lot of these cars like one color matched, you know what I mean? So I think that's really cool.
And then also nowadays also, like one of your customers' cars here, you don't see rare stock, you know? The car is in for some minor upgrades.
You never see them stock really. You know, you don't see them at all, but like in this condition, it's tough. They're usually somewhat modified, but this is all original.
And,
which is really
original
cool.
Original
sick. For a guy like me and Matt that have our cars like modified and shit, like, and then you see an original one, you're like, oh shit, like, you know, it'd be really cool to have one. Maybe one day, you know, we'll fucking find, you know, an original one. This way you got the one to play and like the one to keep on ice kind of and cruise out, you know. But these cars are great, man. I have a VR6 in my car. It's a 3.6 liter, which is like a real big motor. Shout out to my buddy Chris at C&M Performance. He did the motor swap for me, which is great. You know, he did a great job. The car's reliable. I drive it every day. And it's got a lot of power, man. It's got a lot of power. It's got 5-speed now. I got to upgrade to a 6-speed.
Well, you had a regular VR 2.8.
Yeah, I had a regular VR. I'm kind of jumping ahead. So I had the same thing. I had a 1.8 8-valve, and I blew the head gasket. And rather than, like, obviously, like, getting on the 4-cylinder, I was like, fuck it. Jamal. From Freeport, Long Island. Shout out to my man, Jamal. My boy right there. I actually worked at a shop in Long Island, and Jamal worked 2 doors down at another shop. And he always saw my car, and he would come over and bullshit with me on lunch, and we'd hang out. And he was like, dude, when are you gonna put a VR6 in this, you know? And I was like, nah, man, it runs good, you know? I didn't want to like the car to be down, and like I just wanted to drive it. So the 8 valve was good for me. It got good gas mileage and all that. But then eventually the head gasket blew, and then he was like, yo, let's do it, you know? So I was like, cool. So Jamal actually, you know, helped me out with the swap man. We sourced the motor. I found one on Craigslist from a 95 Passat. So I went out there with Jamal and fucking, he pulled it for me, dude, and we tossed it in the back of this van and we brought it back, and like, you know, it took a little bit, man, maybe like a little over 2 years or so before the car finally got all the kinks and like worked out. But he built a great car, dude. Like we would do like, you know, upgraded brakes, suspension, like an all around like solid car. It was more than just like throwing the motor in there, you know? G60 brakes and like everything was just really nice. It was a really nice driver's car. And it drove really well. I drove it for probably maybe about 4 or 5 years. It had that motor in it. And then we were doing a mountain run and we were just pushing it super, super hard. And those older 12 valves, man, they don't have like those baffles in the oil pan. So like I was sloshing oil, man, hooking turns, and like I think I just starved the motor, and I ended up fucking the motor up in the bottom end. I spun like a bearing or something, which sucked. So you know, obviously to repair it was pretty costly, so it was like, fuck it, let's go for the bigger motor. The VR6 is coming 2.8, 3.2, which you would have found in the R32 or the Porsche Cayennes, the older ones, 3.2s or Passats, Q7s, and then they have the 3.6, which is really cool. So we went for the big mama, and definitely happy I did that, man. But it rocks. One of the best things I did was the LSD. I think like the quaif in the front, you know, grabbing traction equally, put down a lot of power. That also helped in turning. You know, I found like the handling was a lot more responsive, like having those wheels, you know, locked in. It was really, really dope. But it's a great driver's car. I feel like all-wheel drive would be fire, you know, but it's really lengthy and involved to do that. So I don't know, a front-wheel drive Volkswagen is pretty badass anyway, you know?
Definitely.
But they run, dude. I mean, I absolutely love the car. And it's just, it's kick-ass, man. You have any plans? Like what's the future for the car? Are we switching anything up or what's going on?
In the future, upgraded 6-cylinder, that's coming soon.
Nice.
With still the supercharger.
You're still gonna adapt the supercharger to it?
Still gonna adapt the
Nice.
supercharger.
Are you gonna do 3.2 or 3.6?
Well, I was planning on doing the 3.6. Then I'm going back between the 3.2. I mean, but don't get me wrong. VRs, like I said, are very dependable. The one that's in the car right now, is still kicking. I don't have to do it. You know, it's got AC.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive too. Usually when you do this, like you don't retain air conditioning. My car has no air conditioning. I don't even have power steering. You know, they have no ABS, these cars. They have no traction control. So it's a pretty raw car to drive. So supercharged, it must be pretty fucking dope, you know?
Supercharger's nice. It gives it that, you know, it came down to the line. Do you want to do turbo? Do you want to do supercharger?
Yeah, I feel like they respond.
Everybody was going turbo, and it just looked a little more complicated. I just went through a big building the car, between the paint job, the car, you know, now, you know, I'm thinking about it. Everybody that has turbo, they got to go to the shop. It has to get tuned. They're constantly doing things. And then I met this kid. He had a Barn Brenner in a 2.0 supercharger.
Nice.
ABA. MK2 Jetta.
Nice.
My man Syfe in Long Island. And that supercharger hit. It's constant boost.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what drove me more towards the supercharger. And
I agree.
Once that baby went in.
Nice, dude.
The rest was history.
Hell yeah. And I know you brought a shitload of photos, so hopefully we'll go through these and put them up in the video, but it's great you actually have photos from probably how far is this dated back to?
Back to the day one when I bought
the car. So like 1996.
Yeah. Well, the end of 96, beginning of 96, but
no
35 millimeter
photos, no
35 millimeter little Polaroid
camera. That's it. That's super cool, man. And you pretty much have all these photos of kind of your build process through the years, where you can see the car originally with like its hood scoop and like its striping, right? And it's like tri-spoke wheels.
Yeah.
And then it gets all the way to the point where you have photos from like 2002, 2003 when you were in Waterfest, you know, with the VR6. So that's really cool.
From the day that it was pulled out of the shop, I mean, literally no glass in the car.
Right.
We towed it to my boy's shop, and I remember we worked all night because Waterfest was the next day.
Now, man, I know you've owned this car since 1995. It's a hell of a lot of years. It might even be older than some of the people watching this video. You do have other cars, though. So I know you daily drive a Q5. You also have an S4. So I know you kept it in the Volkswagen Audi family. But over this whole time, what made you keep this car? Why have you never sold it? Why have you never, went for another like toy car or like a project car? Why did you stick with your MK2? What's so special about this car?
It's funny you say that though, because growing up, all my friends with cars, it was always, don't fall in love with your car. My friends were going through cars like we change underwear. I mean, it was crazy, but once I started doing work to the car and, I realized this obviously I couldn't be my everyday car, so I got another car, and then I kept going and going, and I started going to the Volkswagen shows. I was always into the Volkswagens, and then, I'm not even gonna lie, it doesn't matter what anybody tells you they got into the car, because you're never gonna get it back. Never gonna get it back. So, my dad used to, for years, and still to this day, my dad loves the car. He can't believe how it turns out. And he even, years ago, he was always questioning.
Why are you spending all your money on this? What the fuck are you doing?
But he sees what it is now. He knows,
It wasn't a fad. You stuck with that.
This is like, this is my baby. Like you said before, we got those days where, you're upset, you're pissed.
Yeah.
I just go in the car, you go for a little ride, that's it. Just that. I'm already amped up. You can't put on Wu-Tang in the car because forget it.
You fucking go out the window.
Yeah, no, forget it. Dropping it to third. But just Volkswagens, that's what we all about. I mean, the car community in general is blessed right now, with
Absolutely.
all these options for cars and
that's why all this exposure, all this great
years
media.
ago, I wish we had the options like we have now.
Yeah.
Although our cars are hard to find stuff.
It's true. Even still, dude. Even still. I bought a couple of parts recently, just like small little OEM parts that I needed for the interior, like the turn signal stalk and some switches. And like, it's not really easy to find, dude. And like, a used piece from, 25, 30 years ago can be like $100 for like a little piece of plastic, like a turn signal stalk or something, So, a hood, for instance, I need an OEM hood. It's like $400 for an OEM hood, dude. Used,
That's crazy.
So, it doesn't sound like much, but like for a car that, I bought new for $2,500 and Matt bought two of them for $2,800, it's like, fuck, but you know what? You gotta grab them while they're hot, dude, because that same hood that's $350, $400 now is gonna be $800 in a year or two, So, what's cool too? I finally got classic insurance on this car. They really didn't recognize it for mad long, dude. I would call up, the car was old enough, but they were just like, it's not really desired. So like the past year or two, like I have like Haggerty.
Shout out to Haggerty,
dude. So I guess enough people call. It was probably me and Matt calling every single year, like, what the fuck, dude? And they put the car up as a desirable car. So now it's actually under classic insurance, which is great. So I'm super happy about that. So we can kind of cover, our project, somewhat. But, it's a great option to have. So, that's cool. But it's so great to drive a classic car. It's a blessing to drive something so old and so analog and something that, how many things do you have around you every day? Like, machines or physical pieces that are 20, 30 years old. Like, not much, right? You got rid of your phones are different, right? Your refrigerator's different, all that stuff. So, like, you constantly upgrade the technology around you, but when you get into something like a machine like that, get into a car and you're, like, inside of it and you're encapsulated, and this thing is, like, kind of takes you back. It's almost like a little time machine. And you go back, like, 25, 30 years, you're like, this is so cool, this is what this car looked like in 1991, and I'm still here inside of it now. And you feel...
And it's your car. You can do what you want to the car.
It's great.
You can keep it stock. You can change it. You could, there's plenty of options.
There's so many routes with the MK2. It's amazing. There's drag racing ones and stance ones and all original ones and rally. It was a Group A car. They used it in rally. It was a really, really amazing lineage, the Mark II. And, it's definitely something special to have. So, I definitely think I'm very blessed to own this car. I could have all the cars in the world, man. Hopefully one day, but I think I will always have this car, and I will always go back to this car and how special it is and how great it drives. But yeah, definitely MK2, great platform. There's not many left. If you're watching out there and you're looking to get into something, that's a great intro into the classic European stuff, and maybe you're not into BMW or Mercedes, and you want to get into the Volkswagen world. I think the Mark I, Mark II platform especially is a great world to get into, man. There's a great community there and just a lot of knowledge. And these cars, you can do whatever you want to do with these cars. They're highly customizable, and you can personalize them to you. So, Matt, I just want to say thank you, man. It's been a great ride, being your homie, enjoying these Volkswagens. I see the future is really bright, man. You know, we just got the cars kind of back on the road. Roscoe made a great video. You can check it out on YouTube.
Shout out Roscoe Sparks.
Yeah, shout out Roscoe Sparks. Killed it, dude. I don't know of any other shop in New York City or anybody, period, who's making nice rollers of classic MK2s. So we were really proud to put that out and just put out some classic Volkswagen content for New York City. So we hope you guys are watching. We hope you subscribe. We hope you hit those notifications. You know, follow us on Instagram.
Custom
Shop NYC. But, you know, we'll be back on the next one. But, Matt, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it, dude. And, you know, I can't wait to roll out in the next VW run, you know? It's going to be great, dude.
MK2s, baby.
Yeah, dude.